Hi everyone, welcome to my review of f.w.murnau's Tartuffe in 1925. So yes, here we are with another Murnau review, and it's been a few months. I believe the last one I've done was the Finances of the Grand Duke, and then before that was Taboo. So yes, done a few in the last few months, and here is the set that I've been going through, and yes, really interesting set here. You've got ones that I've not seen yet, like the Last Laugh on there, and ones that I've really been looking forward to massively, and you've got some ones on here that aren't so acclaimed, or not as acclaimed, and not as kind of talked about too much. Tartuffe is kind of in between. It's got some acclaim and some love, but it's not counted as one of his best films. So yeah, I thought I'd give it a go the other day, and yes, here it is. Kind of a weird design, the thing they've got going on here. They've got different films, on the different sides, but here is Tartuffe, and of course Blu-ray, and yes, very interesting film, and something that, I didn't quite know too much about. I wasn't too well versed in this. It's based, of course, on a play. I'm not too well versed on the play. I'm kind of aware of this, but yes, basically, this is not going to be a spoilers review, and it's going to be very short. But yeah, it's a Murnau film, kind of in the middle of his career, and you've got Emil Jannings, who plays Tartuffe himself, and yes, you've just got this very interesting film. It's very short, around about 65 minutes, and most of that is, kind of the showing of the film. You could say the basic plot, without spoiling it, is this, it's this elderly man and his housekeeper, and she's basically, the housekeeper is kind of perceived as evil, and she's kind of trying to deceive him, and at one point she tries to poison him, as well. It's poisoning going on, and yes, it's quite dark, and it's very disturbing at first, but then of course the grandson, who is actually an actor in the film, kind of catches on to this. He looks through the keyhole, and basically he sees what's going on, and very investing here. The way that the Murnau kind of just shows the information to us, the dramatic irony there, and you kind of get behind this. I was definitely very much into the film the first 20 minutes, but then of course what you have is, yes, the grandson catches on to this. He intends to show, the two other main characters here. And yes, the grandson is played by André Mattoni, and yes, basically, I really liked his performance here. It was actually very good, really just an enjoyable performance. And then he basically, this character, the grandson, attempts to show, these characters this film, and basically, the rest of the film after 20 minutes is actually us. It's a film within a film, basically, and although it's kind of, it's more of a play than, the rest of the film, of course. It's a very odd film, that's what I'm trying to say. It's not, I don't think it's a great film, but regardless of that, I think it's a very strange one in the way it kind of shows us. But again, actually very interesting, and actually something to praise and something to kind of admire as well. The way that he uses, kind of framing device, and it's kind of, the idea of this is very almost genius actually. The execution not so much, but the way he basically, the rest of the film is them. You were just seeing what's in this kind of this film that they're getting shown, and of course Emil Jannings is very good in this, and you've got some other really good performances as well. Some decent stuff going on here with the performances. And yes, the attempt, of course, is to kind of basically mirror what's been going on between, in this origins of this Tartuffe story, and this play, with what's happening with the housekeeper and the grandfather. So really interesting, very kind of thought-provoking in itself, and something you could get very excited for, because it's something straight away where it's going, after the 20-minute mark. You're not sure. I wasn't sure how long the actual showing of this, film, this play, would last. It is basically the rest of the film until the last 5 minutes roughly, and then it cuts back. But yes, basically, it's something that yes, I think it's a very good idea of this, and something that in the end, without ruining it, it does definitely come together in many ways. But I think, because mirroring this, and maybe trying to change something, trying to bring characters or a character to realization, which is it's really good stuff here. It's very interesting and it's good ideas. But the actual play itself, the film they're getting shown, for me, it's just really quite flat at times, and I was nowhere near as invested, in this portrayal of this Tartuffe story, this creation, as much as I was in the first sort of 20 minutes. Although I did really appreciate it, and I enjoyed most of it. This actual Tartuffe story, but I do think overall it's a good film. It's something that it's definitely not great for me. Although I think I appreciated it. I kind of was invested in some parts of this story, the way it's portrayed, and yes, basically it's very well shot. It's kind of the use of music isn't too much to comment on. It wasn't Murnau standards, but I think the editing is fine. At times it does contribute to some flat moments, but yeah, overall I think it just is a bit too detached for my liking personally, and it's nothing. I don't think that blew me away. It didn't give me much of a. It didn't stir up much emotions. It doesn't really engage me that much. This actual this film they're getting shown within this film, of course, but as a piece overall, I think it's a good film. I did like it. It engaged me because it does come together as well, and it said the thing that I thought it would kind of do in the end. I was kind of impressed by it, but a big chunk of the film, obviously 40 minutes roughly, is the actual play, if you will. This film they're getting shown, and in itself, I just think that is the piece that I'm not big on. I think the film could have been very good actually if it had kind of kept up to the standards of the first 20 minutes. Because I was definitely feeling more from these performances. I was definitely feeling for example, more sympathy for the actual grandfather than anything within the actual Tartuffe kind of showing, basically. And yes, it's something that it's very good in its ideas. I think if it had been shorter and more had happened after the actual showing, I think the actual idea of the structure of the film would definitely have been something that could really have worked. And I think overall it's a good film. It's definitely one I'd recommend. It's very unique. I've never seen really a film like this. And it did have some emotion in it. It had some beauty, of course. Had some human touches. But overall, I think, and this is a short review, as you would now know, I'd have to now rate the film because I can't say too much more about it. It wasn't too. It's not a film to talk about too much. It is technically kind of a very short feature film. But yes, I'd definitely give it a 72%. I think definitely a film to recommend. Whether or not I kind of was always invested in the film, maybe not. But overall, as a piece, and considering the first third of the film basically, which is the first 20 minutes, I definitely really liked it. Again, it's not as well compared to his other works. Basically, with Murnau works, I've always been wowed by the cinematography. And this at times was a bit flawed, surprisingly. And also, it's mostly interior stuff going on here. The way it was shot. So, it wasn't these beautiful outside kind of exterior. Capturing of scenery, for example. Or uses very, just the way he shoots his films. For example, Sunrise. Or Nosferatu, especially. As well. The exterior shots. Just wowing. Really something else. But this film, it definitely lacked in that sense, and it didn't, as I say, it didn't quite, fully invest me at all. And I don't think it's a great film, but I would recommend it. I think it's another good film from Murnau. Not his best by any means for me, but again, I think it's a film to praise. I really appreciate the way it's kind of a film within a film. I always like this kind of stuff. When it's done well, and I think. Yeah, well flawed. It does, definitely does, come together in some ways, and yeah, it kind of was nice. It was a pleasant, experience. I appreciated the showing of this film, within the film, but I really was, it was a shame. I was a bit disappointed with how it, how I didn't get enough screen time with the actual the characters that I was invested with a bit more. But yeah, it's a good film. I think not much more to say. If you think if you like Murnau films, of course, I would say check out all of his films. That's what I'm trying to do. But this film, I recommend it, but it's not for me a great film. But yeah, I think it's not too talked about really, this one, and it's not regarded as one of his best. But I think it's a solid film. It's definitely it's kind of what I expected. Based on, for example, what people say about the film. The consensus. Yeah, it's definitely better than the Finances of the Grand Duke. But other than that, I think it's not quite on the level of his other works. And yes, but definitely an impressive film. Very pleasant experience, and some themes that were explored, like deception, trickery, and yes, just I think morals. The way the questions are raised were definitely effective to some extent, and simply done in a nice way. There's a purity to it. The way that this is kind of the message of the film, if you will. So yeah, definitely good, and I really though look forward to the Last Laugh, and yes, of course, other ones to see like Faust and City Girl. These are the ones that I have really been looking forward to seeing, and of course that special eventual rewatch of Sunrise. Wow, I cannot wait for that, and that's a film that I cannot wait to talk about. And of course Nosferatu, another masterpiece that I've reviewed as well. So yes, Murnau is just such a great. He was such a great director, and this is another good film, an impressive film, and a commendable film from him. So yes, thanks for watching my review.